Question 16. What is sin? Sin is rejecting or ignoring God in the world He created and not being or doing what He requires in His law. So what we see in this question of the Catechism is it's asking, what is sin? What is that thing that separates us and God relationally? And very often in Christianity, we think of sin as something external or merely an action that I do. But the testimony of Scripture is that we ourselves are sinful. And why that distinction matters is it explains that I'm not a sinner because I do these acts of sin. I sin because at my core nature, I am a sinner. Right? This was Martin Luther's great point that he was making in the Reformation period, is that because of the guilt and the stain of sin that we have inherited from our first parents, we are born into this world dead in sins and transgressions, as Paul says in Ephesians 2. We are bent and enslaved to these desires that run contrary to God. And at the forefront here, the Catechism says that sin, this desire within me, is one of rejecting or ignoring God in the world He created. This is the great charge that Paul lays forth in Romans chapter 1, that although men know God, because He's made Himself known to them, we suppress the truth in unrighteousness. We ignore all that God is and all that God has done for us by grace. But it continues on that it is also not being or doing what He requires in His law. Now, we spent several weeks going over questions regarding that law of God and its standard of moral right and wrong. But the problem for sinful men and women is I can know this standard and I can just ignore it. I can know this standard and not do it. This is really what it means to be a sinner by nature, is that God has made these truths known to me, but I don't care. I reject Him, I reject His law, and I want to be a law unto myself. I want to be my own God. And here we find ourselves back at the beginning in the book of Genesis. When the serpent tempts Eve, he says, "Take of that fruit, and you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing good from evil." So again, question 16, what is sin? Sin is rejecting or ignoring God in the world He created and not being or doing what He requires in His law.